Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. I'm your co-host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the Fantasy Football Face-Off. Help me welcome to the show, Anthony Savino. How you doing, Anthony?
What's going on, Mike? How are you?
Oh, we got a huge Thursday night game tonight between the Patriots and the Giants. But first up, we're going to talk a little injuries and updates in the NFL. And the injury bug continues to just take down the San Francisco 49ers after losing fullback Kyle Juszczyk for up to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain. And, of course, they've lost Joe Staley. Now, Mike McGlinchey is having his knee scoped and will miss 4 to 6 weeks. McGlinchey suffered the injury during the 49ers beatdown of the Cleveland Browns, 31-3. This has got to be concerning now. You've lost 2 stud offensive linemen, your fullback. There's issues here in San Francisco right now.
Yeah, they're down Staley, and now McGlinchey's a big loss, and that's big. You can overcome Staley, and they did because they're continuing to run the ball well. But now, when a player like Mike McGlinchey, one of the better linemen coming out, I believe, in last year's draft, they're going to have to overcome this. Again, they want to run the ball. And running the ball protects Jimmy Garoppolo. So I want to see how the 49ers respond this week.
Yeah, and I think Juszczyk's absence might have an even greater impact on the 49ers than losing to 2 tackles because the offensive lines played well, the fullbacks played well, and now you're taking away 3 of the biggest reasons why they have played well.
Yeah, that they were one of the better offensive lines in the league coming in. We'll see what happens now because I'm not sure how their reserves are because we haven't seen much of them, especially with McGlinchey. He's been relatively healthy even last year.
All right, now the Jacksonville Jaguars owner, Shad Khan, anticipates cornerback Jalen Ramsey playing Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I mean, why not? He saw a back specialist. That obviously came back okay. If they're saying he has a chance to play, we haven't heard much out of Jalen Ramsey wanting out of town. Maybe ownership and Ramsey got together and put the past behind him. We'll see. But I know if Ramsey does play, he's going to vastly improve that defense that is clearly not as talented without Jalen Ramsey, who's probably a top 5, if not number 1 cover corner in the NFL.
All right, the New York Jets took another hit before their battle with the Dallas Cowboys.
Of course they did.
Coming off suspension, yeah, that's what the Jets do. They take hits. They never get them. They just get them. But looks like Chris Herndon will be out and miss this game also. How big is that, do you think?
I mean, I guess you can say it's significant. Herndon flashed a little bit with Sam Darnold the second half of last season. However, that was without Adam Gase. And historically, Adam Gase doesn't heavily utilize the tight end position. And we see this in Tampa Bay in Bruce Arians' system, another head coach that doesn't normally utilize a tight end. They have 2 talented tight ends in Tampa Bay, and they're invisible. So I don't know if this Herndon loss is going to be as significant as anybody thinks.
All right, Patrick Mahomes was a full go in practice on Wednesday, a great sign that he shouldn't be hindered that much by the ankle injury that he tweaked in Sunday's loss to Indianapolis Colts. He said he felt good, but I still think there has to be a lot of concern here because a lot of what he does is dependent on his legs, and I don't mean running. I just mean sprinting out, being able to throw the ball in ways that other people can't throw it. And I think this could be a huge deal. I mean, because if he just tweaked it again, a week later, I don't think it's that believable that he's 100%. And it would be easy to tweak it again. And this Chiefs offense is not the same if he can't move around.
Well, Pat Mahomes already tweaked his ankle in the season opener, and we saw it again, but he continues to play. So until, it's significant enough to where he misses time, then I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah, it still affects that offense, though. And we have seen him only thrown 1 touchdown pass in the last 2 games. So I would think it does matter if he's playing hurt because his
Well,
legs are very valuable to what he does even in the pocket.
I mean, they're getting Tyreek Hill back likely.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't. He had to be in jail. Next up, Dan Quinn took over the defensive play calling this season in hopes of turning around a D that was softer than dry or lint. And it has not worked out. The defenses seem to get even worse. And as Quinn said, my job is to fix it, and he's not giving up the defensive play calling. I would say this. The first sign that a coach is about to be fired is he starts calling the plays offensively or defensively himself. So with that being said, I think Dan Quinn's not long for being the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
No, and he shouldn't be. We're both calling for Dan Quinn's head right now, and it's only a matter of time. I don't care what ownership says. Dan Quinn's got to go.
All right. Todd Gurley is now day-to-day with a left thigh contusion. My question is, how does he get a thigh contusion when Sam McVay never uses him anyways?
I mean, he is getting around 15, 16 touches a game. It's well below where we're used to seeing from Todd Gurley, but, he is getting used. I think a lot of it has to do with losing those two pieces on their interior offensive line this offseason, is why they can't establish the run.
Yeah, and then I don't think there's any surprise here. The NFL upholds Vontaze Burfict's year-long suspension. Any surprise there for you? Because I think this was pretty much a done deal. And Vontaze
No surprise at all. No surprise at all on that.
All right, tonight, the New York Giants will face the New England Patriots. This is not Super Bowl 42 or 46. Any shot for the Giants here? Because with all these injuries, losing all these weapons, it looks like Barkley will miss the game. Evan Ingram, backup Wayne Gallman. Sterling Shepard is also out with concussion. This team is a mess right now offensively, which I think pretty much limits any chance or eliminates any chance they would have to pull the upset here.
I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to give the Giants a shot if the Patriots bench Tom Brady and put the rookie in.
No.
Their defense, I mean, you take the Patriots defense and pair that with all of the losses on the Giants offense, I think the defense could by themselves can win the game 7-3, even if they give up 3 points.
Yeah, and I know the Patriots have been a benefactor of a really easy schedule so far, but they currently rank first in 10 categories, which includes total yards per game allowed, 238. The Bengals can give that up in a quarter. Takeaways, 12. They've got 24 sacks, an opponent passer rating of 44, points per game 6.8. And I know they've faced Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh Allen, Luke Falk, Colt McCoy, but those numbers are still pretty damn good in the NFL, no matter who you're playing.
Are we looking at the possibility of the New England Patriots going 16-0 in the regular season for the second time in 15 years?
Yes. I mean, when you look at their schedule, let's pull it up, because I looked at it the other day.
I looked at it before this show.
Yeah, and I only saw a couple games where I thought, they could lose that game. And I know it's the NFL, and when I was younger and I'd predict, my favorite team's record for the year, I would always throw in, one win that I don't expect and one win or one loss that I don't expect. But when you look at them here, I mean, this schedule's pretty cake. They go to the Jets. That should be safe. They host the Browns. They go to Baltimore. They go to Philly. That could be a game they could have trouble with. They play Dallas. They play at Houston. The Chiefs at home. At the Bengals. Dolphins at home. Bills at home. So to me, the dangers here are probably at Philly, at Houston.
Dallas.
The Chiefs at home.
Dallas.
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 Yeah. I hope you're kidding.
I'm not kidding. Depending on what Cowboys team shows up.
Oh,
if it's the Cowboys
how about this? The Cowboys team that shows up against good teams is not very good. The Cowboys team that shows up against lesser competition is really good. So unless you can get the team that shows up thinking the New England Patriots or the Miami Dolphins, I think you're going to get your ass kicked. There's no way. I mean, if they're getting stymied by the Saints defense and the Packers defense, the Patriots, I think, defensively are even better than that. If the game was in Dallas, I would give them as a dangerous game. I think the most dangerous game here, though, for them, believe it or not, is the Houston Texans. Because the Houston
Yeah.
Texans can put pressure on without blitzing. And Deshaun Watson's pretty damn good. And the Texans are probably going to need that game in the AFC South. And the Patriots are probably going to already have their division and probably the number one seed locked up by the time you get to December the 1st.
Yeah, but what does that even matter to the Patriots? They always have their foot on the gas anyway. But I do agree. If you want to leave Dallas out of it, Philly's going to be tough, and also that Houston game. You're right on that. But one more, Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo.
That could be a tough
Kansas
one. But
City
even
also.
worse, you're looking at a 13-3 Patriots team.
Yeah, and a number one seed in Kansas City or Buffalo has to go to New England, which probably would bug Buffalo less than Kansas City. Also, you've got to take into effect that December the 15th game at Cincinnati. That could be a rough one, too.
I get, yeah.
Yeah, it's the stupidest thing in the Cowboys.
Well, I mean, the roughest part about that game is traveling.
No, the roughest part about that game is just having to go to Cincinnati. Not
That's
the
what I mean, traveling
I know,
to Cincinnati.
but where you end up. Why? What's wrong with Cincinnati? Now you don't like Cincinnati?
I've never been. I can't judge.
You've never been to Cincinnati?
I haven't.
Jeez. All right. Now, here is the other thing that I found out from doing a little research. What little research I did. There's been 11 quarterbacks to make to play against the New England Patriots. And you know how many of those quarterbacks have won?
I'm going to say 0.
You would say the right thing. And the other thing with Daniel Jones, I think you're going to see 2 or 3 turnovers from him tonight, which makes this game even worse.
I mean, would the Giants be smart if this game gets out of hand to put Eli in the game and kind of get Daniel Jones out of the way?
To tell you the truth, I'd have probably left Eli in until after this game and then started playing him. But I would say no. I would say you put him in this game, you leave him in this game. I think you're at a point with a rookie quarterback and benching a veteran quarterback where you just kind of got to let him run. I mean, if you want him to learn under fire, if he is mentally a tough kid and the offensive line is at least decent, he's going to learn a lot playing against Belichick's coverages tonight.
No, yeah, you're right.
So, and Tom Brady's only 2,922 yards away from Peyton Manning, for the second most passing yards in NFL history. Do you think he could break that tonight? I didn't realize that Drew Brees was so far ahead of him. Drew Brees has got like 74,845.
Yeah, but he has, 5 fewer rings?
Yeah.
Which
But
in
we're
the end,
talking
that's
about
what
yards.
matters.
We're talking about yards, though, right now. I just can't believe that he has so many more yards because he's played forever. Anything else you want to discuss today? There's got to be something else. We're only like 13 and a half minutes in, but it's what happens when you get a Thursday night game that's crap.
Well, how about Bill Callahan's comments? Paraphrasing, as long as we run the ball more than our opponent, we're going to win.
Okay.
Did you see that or hear that?
Well, it's Bill Callahan. Is that not the same guy who used the exact same playbook against Chucky in the Super Bowl?
But this is... how does that make any... So if an NFL team just runs the ball 50 times, they're going to win?
Well,
that's how I take that.
How about this? I would say that is true to
and
the
he's
point
going to do
where,
that with a 40-year-old running back and Adrian Peterson?
Hey, I would say that is true to the point where if you're running the ball 40 times a game, it's probably working. But the thing is this, if you try to run 40 times a game and you're averaging 2 yards a carry, you're down 35-7. Once again, Bill Callahan, and his sons are in the NFL now, and it goes back to the same thing I said. It's all nepotism.
Can't the NFL owners just and vote Daniel Snyder off the island?
Couldn't they vote him and Mike Brown off the island? Please.
At least Mike Brown has legacy.
Really? His legacy is of getting his ass kicked since 1991.
His father.
Once
Paul
again,
Brown.
this is
legacy.
The problem with the NFL. Because the legacy does mean something when it comes to coaching, when it comes to ownership. Mike Brown's done nothing to ever enhance his family's legacy. Nothing at all. Nothing. You know, Bill Callahan, nothing. His son, nothing. I mean, we talked about the O'Connell guy that they're going to make their head coach of the Redskins. He's done nothing. He's been an assistant for 4 years. And until this year, he was a low-level assistant. But it's who you know. Last night, I was on a Herschel Talkers. It's a Georgia Bulldogs podcast. It's actually going to start being on the Grueling Truth. And that's what they asked. They asked, well, how do you go from being a low-level NFL, or how do you get into being an NFL coach? And the answer is, have the right dad. I mean, Sean McVay, if he was Sean Johnson, and his dad wasn't John McVay, or granddad wasn't John McVay, who coached in the NFL, was a GM in the NFL, had something to do with the running of the NFL during the late 80s into the 90s, Sean McVay, at his age, would have never got an opportunity to be a head football coach in the NFL.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at these coaching staffs, Belichick even does it. You know, he's got a kid on the staff there. Jeff Fisher did it with his son, and I mean, these are guys that are not capable of being NFL coaches. And you know, that's the thing. If I'm going after a coach, I'm going to go after, you know, the guy at Stanford or Lincoln Riley. Why do I want to go after a guy who was the wide receivers
but Lincoln
coach?
Riley's not leaving, right? That's what I heard. He's not going anywhere.
Dude, I'll tell you what. Anybody will go anywhere for the right amount of money, and Jerry Jones has more money than God. I'm telling you, if Jerry Jones ever seriously wants to be like he was in the early 90s, he would do that. Give him $20 million a year because he'll win. Now, Oklahoma is a much better job than Dallas, but if you throw in the money, it's not. Because let's face it, if you want to be a football coach, as long as you don't hate the recruiting aspect of it, what's a better job? Do you know, the New England Patriots or the Alabama Crimson Tide? You know, Ohio State or the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, when you go coach at Ohio State or Alabama, you know, Nick Saban, when he leaves Alabama, they'll build a statue right next to Bear Bryant for him. If he would have stayed in Miami, he'd have been fired. He'd have been out of it. It takes a different kind of mentality to be a college coach, and they don't always convert because we saw Saban fail in Miami. We saw Bobby Petrino get scared to death in Atlanta.
I mean, Lou Holtz failed in the NFL.
Yeah, but Lou Holtz failed in the NFL because Lou Holtz isn't really a football coach. Lou Holtz is a motivator, if you know what I mean. I mean, Lou Holtz in 1976 came to the Jets, who had an older Joe Namath with bad knees, and decided that they were going to run the triple option. And, hey, by week 4, Joe Namath's hurt. The other one, Marv Levy, when he got to the Kansas City Chiefs in 1978, and people forget this about Marv Levy, but Marv Levy tried to install the old wing T offense with the Kansas City Chiefs. And that Kansas City team had talent. They were good defensively, but they couldn't score points because they're trying to run the freaking wing T in the NFL. Once again, if you look at the NFL today and the 32 head coaches, how many of them do you really think when you hear their name, man, that guy's a really good coach?
Not many.
Not many. I mean, if you go through it, the Giants, is he a good coach? McAdoo? Or whoever. Who is the head coach?
Shermer.
That was McAdoo before.
McAdoo hasn't been the coach of the Giants in 3 years.
It doesn't matter. That was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Same difference.
He's a perfect example, though, of knowing the right people and having the right family. Carolina, Ron Rivera? I don't think so. Bruce Arians, I think, is a good coach. And the thing about Bruce Arians is he's a good coach, and he didn't get a head coaching job till he was almost 60 years old. You know, Vic Fangio, even though I think he's out of place as a head coach, doesn't get a shot till he's 60 years old because they want to go with the young ones. I think Doug Peterson's a hell of a coach. I think Mike Zimmer's a good coach. Washington and Miami. Brian Flores, I'm not going to hold this against Brian Flores because nobody, even Belichick himself, couldn't win there. I think Bill O'Brien is a solid coach. I think Andy Reid is a solid coach. Sean Payton's a good coach. I'm not a big Doug Marrone fan. Pete Carroll, I think,
about
is
Jason Garrett.
Coach. Jason Garrett sucks. Freddie Kitchens sucks. Sean McVay, or what's the name of the coach? Opie Taylor in Cincinnati
Nah, you
sucks.
can, if they win that division, you can never call him Opie again.
If they win a division at 6-10, which is the only way they could, I can. Actually, I could be an angry Bengals fan until a playoff game is won. Technically, Anthony. Um,
Yeah,
I think.
but you can't blame Opie for the pass. Now you got me calling him. You
Thank
can't blame Zach
you.
Taylor for the pass.
No, we're calling him Opie from now on. It's mandated. Didn't you get the memo? He's Opie Taylor. Because if you watch that team, they have no clue what they're doing. And once again, when you talk to the guys on the team, especially the defensive players, they'll all tell you, nobody knows what's going on here. We are poorly coached. That came from Preston Brown to Joe Kelly, who's a former Bengal, and from Preston's dad, me and Joe Kelly, where they said this is the worst coach team he's been on since high school, and that none of the coaches, the linebackers don't know what the DBs are doing, the DBs don't know what the
Yeah,
linebackers
but how
are
is
doing.
that on your offensive-minded head coach?
He's the head coach. How's it not on him? Everything is on the head coach.
But don't some teams bring in in a situation like look at Sean McVay.
Zach
They
Taylor
brought in Wade Phillips to coach the defense.
Yeah,
Sean
he
McVay
brought
don't know
in Wade
defense.
Phillips. That means to me, if the defense plays well, it's Wade Phillips, but it's also Sean McVay.
Okay, without
because he
Wade
brought him
Phillips,
in.
you'll be calling him Opie McVay.
I actually think he's Opie McVay. It's just his last name's not Taylor, so it doesn't fit. At least I don't call him Timothy McVay. So, I mean, this is the thing now. If Opie Taylor would have hired Wade Phillips, the defense would be fine. So what it comes back to is this. If my defensive line sucks and it's because of the coaching, and I'm the head coach, I hired the defensive line coach. Opie Taylor hired the defensive coordinator. All right? And my problem with Opie Taylor and the Cliff Kingsburys of the world is this. They don't know what's going on with the defense. And if you are a head coach and you're coaching one side of the ball, if you're the offensive coordinator, you're Dan Quinn, and you're the defensive coordinator in Atlanta, a lot of these young guys, and I've seen it before because I've coached with them, where if they're the offensive coordinator and the head coach, they don't pay any attention to the defense. You cannot be the head coach of a complete football team if you're just concentrated on half of that team. I don't think Opie Taylor has anything to do with the defense other than hiring the guys that are screwing it up right now. And to me, that's not a head football coach. And I think Freddie Kitchens is the same way in Cleveland. And I think that's why these guys fail. I think McVay, the reason he got to the Super Bowl is because he was smart enough as soon as he got the job to go get Wade Phillips.
No, I agree.
So
Wade Phillips played a big role in that run.
Yeah, so Sean McVay does a great job of his defense. Opie Taylor does it. You got to bring in a guy that can coach it. And if you really think the Cincinnati Bengals can win more than 2 or 3 games this year, you're crazy. Because they can't. They just can't. I mean, right now, look at what they've done. They've lost to the freaking Cardinals. At home. And only had 9 points with 5 or 6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And you've got Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, Andy Dalton. All you have to do is find a couple offensive linemen that are a little bit better than what you got. And you'd be 2-3 or 3-2 right now and right in the middle of this. And
where are these linemen growing on trees?
Yeah, they are. There's offensive linemen on practice squads that are better than Bobby Hart and Andre Smith. You cannot convince me there's not. But when you have a scouting department that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, you can't find those guys. And when Katie Blackburn is in charge of finding those players, Katie Blackburn was a women's hockey player at Dartmouth or Brown or some crap like that. She's not qualified to do that. So yeah, when I watch Bobby Hart and Andre Smith, I don't think I've ever seen 2 worse tackles. And an attempt should be made to get somebody. I mean, you sit there and you talk about, trade one of those stud defensive linemen. Trade him for an offensive tackle instead of, because right now, if you bring in another good offensive tackle, Cordy Glenn, when he gets healthy, you've got 2 solid tackles. And by the time you get to December, Jonah Williams may be a go. And if he's ready to go, all of a sudden, you've got an offensive line that's decent. Because right now, with this division, I don't know why you'd pack it in and just keep everything the way it is, because if they beat the Ravens this week, they're going to be exactly 2 games out of first.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but they're not. They're going to get beat like 41-13 because Lamar Jackson's going to run all over their defense. And there's going to be wide open receivers. You mark my words, Lamar Jackson's the guy to play in fantasy this week because he's going to have 3 touchdown passes and probably 1 or 2 touchdown runs and probably total over 400 yards all by himself.
Well, you're making the fantasy players happy if that comes true.
No, I'm only making fantasy players that have Lamar Jackson happy. The ones that don't have him wouldn't be happy, right?
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
I know. I'm just trying to stretch this into a half hour to tell you the truth, Anthony, and I think you're doing the same. And I think we've been successful. So, anything else?
I mean, I think we basically, covered everything.
All right, guys. Tomorrow, me and Anthony.
Like I said, it's not like the Thursday night game gave us much to talk about.
No. The Thursday night game, we could have just both said Patriots and moved on. I don't hold out much hope here. I am interested to see what Daniel Jones does when the Patriots do things to him he's never seen. Because I think that's how you find out how good a quarterback is. And I'm not he could throw 5 interceptions. But if his body language, if you don't see the head go down, if you don't see him get discouraged,
then I don't think we're going to see that out of Daniel Jones.
I don't either.
I think he's very poised, and I noticed that in the preseason because he was turning the ball. He was fumbling a lot in the preseason early, and then he would come in and lead a touchdown scoring drive.
Yeah.
So he would bounce back right away.
Yeah, I expect to see that tonight. Now, if it's something where he throws a ton of interceptions, you see him moping around on the sideline, then you don't have your guy. But I don't expect to see that from him either. I'm not convinced he's going to be a great quarterback, but I'm still kind of in the wait-and-see approach with him. I'm not going to say he's crap like Jared Goff or Mitchell Trubisky, but I'm not going to say he's great like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers.
See, I like Daniel Jones. I don't know what he's going to be, but I like him.
I'm not saying that I don't. I say I like him. But I can like somebody and they still not turn out to be that good. But mentally, I think he is a quarterback. I think we just got to see how this season affects him. I think the Giants are doing the right thing by finding out right now. And they're going to get the hell beat out of them by the Giants either way. You might as well see how this kid reacts and whether you've got a franchise quarterback of the future.
No, I agree.
But all right, guys, tomorrow, well, before that, Anthony, you want to tell everybody where they can find the FF Face-Off, which you always forget to message me when the show's ready so I can put it on the Grilling Truth?
No, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow the show at the FF Face-Off. We're at all of the top social media platforms. You can find the actual podcast at all the top podcast platforms. And we will be going live today, this afternoon, right around 3:30 on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch.
All right, guys, so make sure you check them out there. Me and Anthony will be back on the NFL show tomorrow at noon. We will look back at tonight's probable butt whooping. And we will also take a look and predict every game straight up for Sunday. Make sure you check us out live at noon. All right, you can follow The Grilling Truth at Grilling Truth, and you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grilling Truth. So, for Anthony Savino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.